Welcome back to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This is the C block or final section of our weekly roundup of cannabis news from around the world. This is also our last reminder to download the PCM TV app. That's where the first version of this complete news show is available first every week at 9 a.m. That's even 2 hours before we live stream it on our network of distribution platforms on Mondays. So just scan the QR code and that will take you right to the Google Play or App Store where you can download it for free. First up in the C block is our new District of Columbia reporter named Louis Joe. He runs a licensed delivery service in the district and has an interesting story that leverages the district's unique relationship with the federal government. Like everything with this new administration, nothing that has been in place since medical passed in 2014 is safe under President Trump. However, that hasn't stopped advocacy. Here's Louis with a story that could challenge that unique relationship DC has with Congress.
I'm Louis Joe with District Chronicles, owner of Green Guard, DC's first social equity and only licensed medical cannabis carrier. And today we're here with business owner Aaron Rogers and his lawyer, Lev Ivashko. Now, check his story out. They have a case. They originally went to court against the city of DC and the cannabis regulatory bodies for a zoning issue affecting Aaron's license. And now Aaron and his team, say they have a precedent in court for medical cannabis being legalized federally.
We were in federal court. The first question that the judge asked, by the way, it was federal judge Reyes. The first thing that Reyes said was, I didn't even review this. Why am I here? My attorney, Lev, of course, said, we think we're here because we have a zoning issue. We should be in, state court. We don't want to even be here, right? Essentially, I'm paraphrasing. But the key is the district attorney brought up, we're here to find out if our DC medical program fits due process, because we've raised due process concerns with regards to their law.
We were talking about, they didn't care. And they were like, you know what? Well, this is a federal action. If you want to bring it, we're going to dismiss it because marijuana is illegal here. Well, DC is a federal jurisdiction too, technically speaking, So that's what makes DC kind of like the moon, the next frontier of, if we can figure out what's happening here, this may actually lead to legalization of marijuana.
All those things, but to keep it on point means that a federal city is collecting revenues from a Schedule I drug, which I support, by the way. I think we should be doing this, go program. And moreover, that the program itself is federally legal to even be here by how they did it.
Now, I know what you're thinking. I thought it was supposed to be Aaron Rodgers, the NFL quarterback. No, not that Aaron Rodgers, but he is quarterbacking the medical cannabis community to ask the hard-hitting questions. DC is under federal jurisdiction, meaning the medical cannabis laws had to be approved by Congress. Now, in Aaron's case, a federal judge has upheld the medical cannabis program. What are the implications to this? Does this case set federal precedent for legalization nationally? Well, we're going to have to keep you updated, and we're going to have to find out right here, only on District Chronicles. Until next time, all facts, no smoke. I'm Louis Joe. Back to you, Alaina.
The cannabis legalization movement has another plant medicine that is garnering a lot of attention in the capital and political world. It's psilocybin, a psychedelic mushroom that has some powerful healing stories of its own, as more and more research has gone into its medicinal benefits. And now in Colorado, one of the oldest states to legalize adult use of cannabis, psilocybin laws are starting to ease. Xavier Jaillet has a look at the legislative action in his state on both plant medicines.
My name is Xavier Jaillet. I am chair of the Colorado chapter of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce and an attorney at the McDonald Hopkins law firm. And here's what's happening in Colorado cannabis news this week. The Colorado legislature wrapped up its legislative session here in Colorado and passed a number of bills impacting the marijuana industry, typically allowing for less regulatory oversight and safeguards when it comes to operating such businesses. And I thought it'd be important to recap some of the bills impacting cannabis businesses here in Colorado that were passed this legislative session. A few of those bills focus on the way that taxes generated from marijuana sales are apportioned to certain state entities. One of those bills limited the amount of dollars that will be allocated to law enforcement programs focused on gray and black market marijuana activities, reducing those allocations by $3 million annually. While another bill reduces the amount of tax revenue allocated to the University of Colorado's medical development program that focuses on studying the impacts and effects of marijuana on medical patients. Those apportions will be reduced from 10 to 5% going forward. Now, another set of bills focuses more on the operational realities of being a cannabis business operator here in Colorado. One of those bills empowers the Marijuana Enforcement Division, Colorado's regulatory marijuana body, to pass additional rules and amend existing rules related to things like purchase limits, restricted areas for dispensaries, how dispensaries are supposed to identify and qualify patients and customers as being qualified to purchase marijuana, and some additional things related to retail dispensary operations here in Colorado. Another bill codifies and amends the rules related to research and development units, which are parts of cultivated marijuana or new formulations for branded products that are allowed to be distributed to certain qualified employees for research and development testing, basically quality control. And the bill further empowers those employees to receive research and development units to allow marijuana businesses to continue to perform quality assurance testing and research and development into new products, new cultivars, and things like that. And the final bill I thought that would be worth mentioning here is one that affects the ability for social equity delivery license holders here in Colorado to deliver marijuana to licensed and qualified patients and customers in their hotels. Previously, dispensaries or deliveries had to be made to residences, and this bill allows deliveries to be made to customers that are perhaps staying in a hotel here in Colorado, so long as those customers are indeed qualified to receive the products. Now, this marks a change here in Colorado that I think is a long time coming. Colorado has historically been a very progressive state when it comes to marijuana reform, but over the last decade, Colorado has somewhat fallen behind some other states, such as Minnesota, Michigan, or most recently Ohio, in what is allowed both by customers and by licensed businesses when it comes to dispensing marijuana. And so this set of bills helps the state catch up a little bit to the new normal and continue to be a leader when it comes to progressive reform in marijuana. That's it for Colorado Cannabis News this week. My name is Xavier Jaillet, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Next up, we head out to Nevada, where there's always something going on in Las Vegas, the self-proclaimed adult playground. This week, Tina Tasaka was busy attending a Bitcoin convention and caught up with someone who claims she's put, quote, hemp on the moon. It's the Lady Space Rocket, and Tina got a chance to talk with her unique story from the moon to NASA via SpaceX. Here's Tina.
I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies, and this is the Nevada and Tribal Nations Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. North Carolina Governor Josh Stein signed an executive order this week creating a 24-member state advisory council on cannabis tasked with drafting recommendations by March 15th, 2026, and finalizing them by the end of the year. Among its members are representatives from state agencies, law enforcement, legislators, and notably the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, whose sovereign dispensary on tribal land has been selling recreational cannabis to adults 21 and over since opening last year around April 20th. Stein emphasized the need to tame the state's Wild West of unregulated hemp-derived THC products by establishing a legal age-restricted market, expunging past convictions, safeguarding youth, and directing tax revenue toward public health and addiction services. The Council's work could pave the way for legal medical and possibly recreational cannabis pending legislative approval. Mr. Tick Sigerbloom, Chairman and Clark County Commissioner, celebrated the 10th anniversary of cannabis dispensaries in Las Vegas with the return of Sigerbloom Haze at the Euphoria Dispensary. Tick noted that over 10 years, legal cannabis has contributed $90 million to the county, which has used it for the homeless, and over $1 billion in taxes to the state, which has gone to schools. 10% of the sales of Sigerbloom Haze will go to the homeless in Nevada. That's it for the Nevada Highlights and Tribal Nations. I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies and Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Reporting from Alabama, I'm Jennifer Boozer for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Today, I'm in Carbon Hill, Alabama, along the I-22 corridor in North Alabama, less than an hour outside of Birmingham. And I'm here to tour several locations for a brand new hempcrete project spearheaded by Vivicent Wellness Foundation. I am their new media director, so you'll be getting reports from me directly as the project progresses. The point of the project is to use sustainable hempcrete and repurposed shipping containers to provide affordable, sustainable housing in an area that was ravaged by tornadoes just a few years ago. In order to have industry come in, manufacturing jobs, there needs to be places for people to live. And we intend to create them. In an eco-friendly way, we're going to use hempcrete. We're going to grow hemp right here in Alabama and use it to build these houses to revitalize this area. In other news, HB 445, the hemp ban bill that was passed and signed into law by Governor Kay Ivey just a few weeks ago, has an update. Yesterday, the Attorney General, Steve Marshall, announced publicly that as of July 1st, smokable hemp flower will now carry a felony conviction, a Class C felony with up to 10 years. Buying street weed is a misdemeanor, so they are definitely bringing the war to the hemp industry in Alabama. We intend to fight it. We're just starting fundraising for a legal campaign to get an injunction, and we need a big win in Alabama so that we can help our friends in other southern states such as Texas and Tennessee beat it in their court systems as well. Stay tuned here every week. From Alabama, I'm Jennifer Boozer with Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
In Oklahoma this past weekend, Kimmie Cannabis, also known as Kimmie Hughes, was the moderator at a major cannabis event in her state that honored and featured other outstanding mothers who have advocated for their children to gain access to cannabinoid medicinal products. Here's Kimmie's Oklahoma report.
I am Kimmie Cannabis from Can I Talk About It with the Oklahoma Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. The Women in Weed movement, founded by Gina Acosta, hosted a powerful event at the historic Farmers Public Market in Oklahoma City, breaking the stigma around motherhood and cannabis. 3 dynamic panels came together to share truth, science, and lived experience, proving that cannabis and motherhood are not contradictions, but conversations long overdue. I had the honor of moderating one of those panels. Panelists opened up about choosing cannabis while leading in the Christian church, living with rare disease, and navigating pregnancy with the plant as medicine. We heard from a holistic doula, a mother of a minor cannabis patient, and a minor patient who shared their experience using cannabis in school to manage seizures. Also featured at the event was attorney Rachel Klubeck, who delivered a serious warning about 2 proposed laws targeting pregnant women who use cannabis medicine. HB 1750 would criminalize use during pregnancy, even with a valid OMA card. House Bill 2737 would redefine neglect to include the use of medical cannabis during pregnancy, again, even with a card. Rachel warned that if these bills pass, pregnant women will not be safe and could face DHS involvement or worse. She strongly advised women to have a plan in place and document everything in case they are forced to defend themselves legally. This event was more than a panel, it was a movement. And these women are breaking barriers and redefining motherhood. and standing in their power. That's it for your Oklahoma update. Peace, love, and all that good stuff.
Next up, the state of Ohio's never-ending battle in the state house since adult use was voted into law in 2023, with 57% voters supporting it. Sales began in August of last year, and the legislature has been making changes to the law ever since. Christina Brisson is our state correspondent in that state, but Tim Johnson is in the trenches at the State House every week as a lobbyist and advocate in Ohio. The former law enforcement veteran is involved with weekly hearings in Columbus, and this week, executive producer Jimmy Young talked with Tim about some of the most recent changes to the cannabis laws in that state.
Thanks a lot, Alaina. Yes, indeed. There's always something new and different going on in the state of Ohio when it comes to reform, rules, and regulations. And when it comes down to those three things, we go to one guy. It's Tim Johnson. He's a regular lobbyist in that Ohio state. He's been there since the beginning, and we so appreciate him taking time to join us every once in a while to kind of set it straight. So, Tim, a lot of movement now in the state house of Ohio down in Columbus. What's the latest? And it does sound like that the legislators are trying to make revisions, but I do think they're trying to make it the right way so the industry can survive. Is that accurate?
I think the legislators' good intent. By the way, thanks for having me, Jimmy. But I think the legislators, they have good intention to protect and build a sustainable, vertically integrated business or industry in Ohio, commercial industry. I believe that's the thing. But one of the problems that they're suffering from right now is the backdoor meetings, the hallway meetings and so forth, where the license holders themselves, certain license holders, not all of them, some of the big ones and their trade association are actually pushing back against issue two, the vote. And they were the ones that put it on the ballot. The people didn't put it on there. They put it on the ballot and we passed it. And now it's all of a sudden short, sweet, and brief, it seems, and it's documented. So I'm not talking, just out of the air. It's documented. They're actually trying to criminalize legalization, which makes no sense. So you do not legalize something to criminalize it. The idea is to decriminalize it. So that's kind of short and brief. That's what we see happening right now.
And it's not an easy issue to handle because you have that Farm Bill of 2018 that was so poorly worded and it put so much emphasis on the FDA coming up with regulations, and they just didn't want to have anything to do with it. So they did what so many people, as I've learned in our government, do sometimes, is they just put it off and just delay and just not do anything, have no action on it, if you will.
Right.
And now you've got a billion-dollar hemp industry and you've got a billion-dollar cannabis Delta 9 industry, if you will. I don't like to use the M word. I think I've explained that in the past. But is Ohio, are they able to grasp this? And of course, and then at the federal level now, the whole news item from this week is that the feds in a committee are trying to ban all THC infused cannabis products. And again, that's going to piss off even more people, isn't it?
You can't ban that. If you ban it, you just go back to prohibition. That's all. You can't pull out a compound out of the plant and it's never present. It's a natural occurrence. So that can't happen. So I do know. I'm not sure as far as the Jim Jordan bill, what he's up to. He's behind what Ohio's already doing. If he's trying to do it for votes, he's doing it for votes. But if he's trying to do it for Ohio, he needs to catch up with reality. We're way ahead of what he's trying to do already in Ohio. So I think that the movement forward with Ohio, as far as that separation, we're looking at it properly. We have created a new agency within the Department of Commerce that will handle primarily, the hemp separation of the hemp retail, and it looks like they may be redoing the regulations for licensing and so forth in hemp. And then we're also hopefully, probably in the fall, we'll be introducing a industrial hemp bill so that it'll be its own standalone program.
Right.
So we still have, we've gotten rid of our pharmacy board, except for the ORS reports that covers the medical patients. But the Division of Cannabis Control, if they just let Jim Canepa do his job, Jim was doing very good. with what he was doing and promulgating the rules off of issue 2. So they need to step aside and just let it happen.
I'm Christina Brisson with Over the Top Renovations with your weekly Ohio Cannabis Report with Cannabis Coast to Coast News. As of June 4th, recreational sales limits have increased from 2.5 ounces every 9 days to 2.5 ounces every day. And Jim Belushi's bringing his own cannabis brand to Ohio through his partnership with Bloom Dispensaries. So welcome, Belushi Farms. But of course, all this is coming as Senate Bill 56 is trying to push through its agenda, which you'll recall I talked about last week, and we talked about how it's going to make more issues with criminalization. This will recriminalize purchases of cannabis flower that's anywhere from not your homegrown or not a dispensary, as well as it'll eliminate gifting and criminalize use in non-moving vehicles. Let's hope this does not get pushed through. Stand up, Ohio. I am Christina Brisson with Over the Top Renovations with Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
This week, we welcome another newcomer to the Cannabis Coast to Coast News team. Her name is Robin Alford, and she is a medical patient in her home state of Kentucky. In 2023, Governor Andy Beshear signed the law to allow medical cannabis to be available to patients who need it. That program launched in January of this year, but like all new markets, has had a few hiccups along the way, especially in a state where the whiskey and bourbon industries are so entrenched in the culture. Here's Robin's Kentucky Cannabis Report.
Hello, my name is Robin Alford, and I'm bringing you the Kentucky Cannabis News. Governor Beshear helped break ground on the first medical cannabis safety compliance facility in the Commonwealth. With a roughly $1 million investment, State 33 LLC will employ around a dozen Kentuckians. The new safety compliance facility will be one of 7 in the state, dedicated to ensuring the safety and quality of medical cannabis products. Team Kentucky has confirmed locations for 39 of the 48 planned dispensaries throughout the state. The Office of Medical Cannabis has launched a dispensary directory so cardholders can see how close dispensaries will be to them. To find a dispensary that will be open near you, visit kymedcan.ky.gov. Patients were able to start applying for medical cannabis cards on January 25th. Since that time, 10,224 medical cannabis cards have been issued, along with 15,108 written certifications. To ensure Kentuckians are not paying for a card they cannot use in 2025, today Governor Beshear signed an executive order that waives the 2026 renewal application fee for any Kentuckian that received a card in 2025. And that is all for now. This is Robin. Everybody calls me Rockin' Robin, so come back at you later.
And finally, this week, a surprising development in the makeup of the typical consumer of cannabis. The history of the prejudicial stigma towards the plant medicine is changing. Science, research, and overwhelming anecdotal evidence has shown this plant has been misunderstood for over 100 years in this country and around the world. And now, with more than half of the adult population in the United States having access to cannabis in the 24 states who have legalized adult use programs, the typical consumer is a lot older than many people thought. Researchers studied the data compiled by the National Survey on Drug Use between 2021 and 2023 and concluded that seniors have enjoyed an increase in their regular use by 40%. Now, regular use does not mean grandma and grandpa are waking and baking. It is defined as once a month use. What this really means is that many older Americans have discovered the powerful medicinal benefits of the plant that can help with sleep issues and chronic pain maintenance. Our resident senior executive producer, Jimmy Young, can certainly attest to that. And that's why he came up with the saying, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Consume it responsibly. That will do it for this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm Alaina Pinto. We will see you next week.
I think I messed up. Did you know there's a place that covers all the cannabis news you need? Welcome to Pro Cannabis Media, your go-to for all things cannabis. PCM is the CNBC of weed, bringing you the latest news and talk shows with a twist. We've got 16 state correspondents and multimedia journalists from around the US and Canada.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with Be Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters.
Andrew Behringer here reporting from Washington, D.C.
Debbie Fazy with the Canadian Toke of the Week.
It all started back in 2018 when founder Jimmy Young kicked off the In the Weeds podcast. His mission? Documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition. Fast forward to today and we've got Cannabis Coast to Coast with Alaina Pinto, delivering the nation's only TV-style cannabis news show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Cannabis Coast to Coast, PCM TV's weekly roundup of industry news from California to New York. I'm Alaina Pinto.
As of August 2024, PCM has racked up over 1.2 million views and 14.5 million impressions on our YouTube channel. With 15,000 subscribers and growing, our reach is spreading like wildfire. PCM's website, YouTube, Rumble, Discord, Roku, Twitch, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and even our very own PCM TV app. Get your cannabis news fix with Pro Cannabis Media. We're here to keep you informed and entertained. Stay tuned and stay lifted.